Welcome in, everyone. Let's dive right into it. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. That's it. That's the whole story. 6 words. You've probably heard that one attributed to Ernest Hemingway. Supposedly, he bet a room full of writers $10 he could write a complete story in 6 words, wrote that on a napkin, and collected from every single one of them. Here's the thing. He almost certainly didn't. That legend is about as verifiable as a Sith holocron. The 6-word thing shows up in newspaper columns decades before anybody pinned Hemingway's name on it. But the story just stuck to him, and it stuck to him for a reason. And that reason is it's what this whole episode is about. Because whether he wrote it or not, Hemingway is the reason microfiction works. So, if you haven't guessed already, today we are doing something a little different. There's no franchise autopsy, no rankings, no yelling about how Disney Lucasfilm has failed us. Today, I want to talk about the smallest possible unit of storytelling and why I think it's one of the most powerful tools that science fiction has ever had access to. And it's one of the most underrated. But of course, I also have a little skin in the game now, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So Ernest Hemingway had a theory. He called it the iceberg theory. Sometimes the theory of omission. The idea was this. The dignity of movement of an iceberg is due to only 1/8 of it being above water. He believed a writer could leave out almost anything. He could leave out the thing the story is actually about. And if the writer genuinely knew that thing, the omission would make the story stronger. The reader would feel the missing 7/8 of the story without ever being shown. That's not minimalism for the sake of being terse. That's a load-bearing absence. There's a difference. Bad short writing leaves things out because the writer didn't have them. Good short writings leaves things out because the writer had them and chose to submerge them. Think about what that means for science fiction specifically. Sci-fi has a few chronic problems. We'll call it world building. And we treat world building like it's a virtue. But half the time, it's an addiction. We get 400 pages of a novel, and 200 of them, they're more often than not the authors explaining how the FTL drive works, or what the political structure of the Trade Federation is, what everybody eats for breakfast on a tidally locked planet with no water. I love that stuff. It's great. I mean, I've spent entire episodes of the show talking about Dyson spheres, but let's be honest. The appendix is not the story. The iceberg theory says that the FTL drive is underwater. You don't explain it. You show me one person, one moment, one line of dialogue, and I infer an entire civilization from the shape of the water. Here's what makes microfiction and science fiction such a natural pairing. And I don't think people say this out loud enough. Science fiction runs on the premise. That's the engine of sci-fi. It's the premise. Everything else, the plot, the character, the prose, it's the chassis. It's what's built around the engine. And a lot of the times, that chassis exists to give the premise somewhere to live for a couple hundred pages. But what if you didn't need the chassis? What if you could deliver the premise raw? That's what microfiction is. It's the shortest distance between an idea and the reader's spine. Think about what a single sentence can do. Think about when the genre does the heavy lifting for you. If I write, "The last human turned off the lights, and something in the dark said thank you," you already know that world. You know it. I know it. I didn't tell you the year. I didn't tell you what the something is about. I didn't explain the extinction event. But your brain just built all of it in about a second and a half because you have decades of genre literacy loaded up in your brain and ready to go. This is respecting the audience's intelligence. And that's the iceberg. 7/8 of that story happened in your head. I didn't pay a word for it. Here's that fun little story again, just to hit it home. The last human turned off the lights, and something in the dark said, thank you. And sci-fi readers are really good at this. We are trained inferrers. Hand a science fiction reader a fragment, and they will reverse engineer a cosmology out of it. That is the single most underexploited resource in the genre, and microfiction is how you cash it in. Because I'm a good sport, let me go ahead and steelman the other side of things here, because I'm not interested in pretending this form has no downsides. The obvious critique is that microfiction is a stunt. It's a bit of a party trick. You can't build a character in 50 words. You can't earn an emotional payoff you didn't set up. What you're really doing is writing a really good log line, and you're calling it literature. And honestly, a lot of the time that critique lands. Most microfiction is kind of bad. Most of it is a twist ending with no story attached, or it's a mood with no engine. And we've all seen these. The ones just a vibe and a semicolon. The counter is this. Length was never what made a story earn its ending. Precision is. A novel can spend 400 pages and still not earn its ending. Ask anyone who's finished a trilogy lately. What microfiction does is strip away every single place you could hide. You can't pad in a microfiction. You cannot coast on a set piece. If the sentence isn't working, everybody can see it immediately. It's not an easier form. It's a form with no exits. You win or you don't. There's no in between. And this brings me to the part where I tell you, I wrote a book. It's called 300 Microfictions of the Past, Future, and the Abstract Mind. And it's out right now. 300 of them. And I mean, the structure is right there in the title. It's built in 3 movements: the past, the future, and the abstract mind. That's the pitch. You're seeing the top 8th of 300 separate submerged things. The reading experience is your own head doing the other 7/8, 300 times. It's also, and I say this deliberately, it's a book you can read at a stoplight. You can read it on a lunch break. You can read 40 in a sitting and feel like you've been somewhere. Now it's not a lesser way to read by far. It's just a different metabolism. Now, let's make this useful, because I know that some of you out there write. So here's what I actually learned writing these 300 microfictions. The first is a non-negotiable. You have to know the submerged part of your iceberg. And I mean, it's the Hemingway rule. If you don't know what happened before your 50 words start, the reader will feel the hollowness. Omission only works if there's something being omitted. You have to do the world building beforehand. You don't just get to publish it. An easy way to do it might be to write the world around it and then literally pick out the part you feel is most important that you want to translate, transmit, and then erase everything else around it. Also, the last line is the whole structure. In a novel, the ending is a payoff. In a microfiction, the ending is the load-bearing wall. And most of mine were written backwards from this final clause. You also need to trust the genre. Don't explain FTL drives. Do not explain what AI is, or zombies or clones. Your reader has read 1,000 of these. Say the ship remembered and get out of the way. You also need to kill the twist reflex. The single most common failure in the microfictions I've read is treating it as a joke with a punchline. A twist is a transaction. You pay attention, you get surprised, and then you're done. The good ones aren't transactions, they are residue. You want the reader to carry the microfiction around. You want them stewing on it, thinking about it, how it looks differently in their mind. Aim for residue, not surprise. Surprise will fade. Also, write 300 of them. And I'm only half joking. The form doesn't reward talent, it rewards repetition. The first time I wrote through this, all of them were terrible. Statistically, most of whatever you write is going to be terrible at first. So no one is going to sit down, well, aside from Ernest Hemingway, maybe, no one's going to sit down, write a book, and then it's immediately going to go to publish and make them a millionaire or make them well-renowned or this, that, or the other. Things are going to be written and rewritten and rewritten. That's what being an author is. That's what writing really is. Writing is not writing, it's rewriting. So here's where I land on all of this. We are living through a moment where science fiction as a commercial product is a bit bloated. I've spent a few episodes of the show complaining exactly about that. Franchises that can't stop, cinematic universes that have to keep expanding or they die, whole IPs that have forgotten how to end a sentence, let alone a story. Microfiction is exactly the opposite instinct. It's a form that is physically incapable of overstaying its welcome. It's a form of fiction where the writer has to choose. It's where restraint isn't a stylistic preference, it's the entire architecture. Hemingway probably never wrote those 6 words about the baby shoes, but he wrote the theory that explains why they work. And that theory, the theory that the strongest thing in a story can be the thing you refuse to say, is, I would argue, one of the most science fictional ideas in all of literature. Because the whole genre is about confronting the unknown. And the unknown is, by definition, part of what's not on the page. So, leave it off the page, on purpose. You still know what it is. If you're a good enough writer, the audience will know what it is. 300 microfictions of the past, future, and the abstract mind. Available now. Link is in the show notes. Would love to hear which one lands for you. Tell me what your favorite is. Tell me which one you hated. I want it all. And if you want to play along, write me one. 6 words, 60 words, whatever it is. Send it in. And you know what? If enough of you do this, I will read the best ones on a future episode. If they're good enough, I might just pretend that I wrote them. You know, if you're getting something out of this show, the Patreon is the thing that helps keep it going. That'll be in the show notes also. But that is all the time I have for today, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning back in. Stick around for more Sci-Fi Unchained. But for now, live long and prosper, my friends, and may the Force be with us all.